we interrupt this program to bring you Courage the Cowardly Dog Show!
Stupid dog! You made me look bad!
I want to ask you something kind of weird to start. When you were a kid, did you ever feel like the world was just a lot? Like adults were doing things that you didn't understand? Situations were happening around you that nobody ever explained, and sometimes it felt like danger was just kind of everywhere, and you were supposed to be fine with all of that? I think about that a lot when I think about Courage the Cowardly Dog, because I don't think it was just a weird, scary cartoon. I think it was one of the first pieces of media that actually described what being a kid feels like. And it did that by setting every single episode in the most honest metaphor that it could find. A small, powerless creature. A world full of threats that he can't control and certainly didn't ask for. And the people that he loves most completely unaware of how much danger they're in. In this video, I want to go deep on a few aspects of Courage the Cowardly Dog that'll hopefully let you see the show from a different perspective. Now don't worry, you'll still like Courage as much as you always did, but hopefully you'll appreciate the show much more than ever by the end of this video. I think it connected with an entire generation on a level that most of us couldn't have articulated at the time, because I think there's something genuinely important buried in this cartoon, and it's worth digging up. On the surface, the show is incredibly simple. Courage is a dog who lives with an old couple, Sweet Muriel and Grumpy Eustace, in a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, which is a fictional city in Kansas. Every episode, some kind of monster or supernatural thing shows up, Courage freaks out, he saves the day, and that's the show. But here's what I think the show is actually about underneath that. Courage is a child. Not literally, I mean, we all know he's a dog, but emotionally, structurally, functionally, he's a child. He's small, he has no real power, he depends completely on the adults around him for safety and stability. And those adults, Muriel is kind of oblivious. She genuinely cannot see the threats that Courage sees, no matter how obvious they are. And Eustace is dismissive and cold, and he's always telling Courage that he's stupid, or that he's overreacting, and that nothing is wrong. Does that sound familiar? Because that's the experience of a lot of kids. You see something scary or something wrong, and the adults around you either can't see it or don't take it seriously. You're told you're being dramatic, that it's fine, that you're overreacting. And Courage just keeps being right. Week after week, the monster is real. The threat is real. His fear is completely justified, but he still has to figure it out alone because the adults in his life are not equipped to help him. The show doesn't really frame this as Eustace being evil. By the way, it's not that simple.
Hullabaloo and howdy-do, musty prawns and Timbuktu. Kick 'em in the dishpan, hoo-hoo-hoo.
It frames it as how things just sometimes are. Some people are kind, but checked out. Some people are emotionally unavailable. And the small, scared thing in the middle there, Courage, still has to find a way to save the day anyway. That is not a story about a dog. That's a story about what it feels like to be young in a world that doesn't always protect you the way that it should. And the biggest reason why I think this is important is because it explains something that took me a long time to understand, and that's why Courage's fear never goes away. That fact is actually the whole point. The show could have given us an arc. Imagine this. Courage faces his fears. He levels up and he unlocks a new power every season. And eventually he starts going out, hunting the danger. That would have been, I think, the easy version. But instead, every episode gets a reset. He's just as terrified at the end of season 4 as he was in the beginning of season 1. And I used to think that was a writing limitation, but now I realize it was a deliberate choice. The show reminds us that fear doesn't go away. The world doesn't get less overwhelming. You just keep showing up anyway. Not because you're no longer afraid, but because love is stronger than fear. And that message lands completely differently when you realize that Courage isn't a hero who's conquered his fears. He's just a small thing that keeps choosing the people he loves over and over again at great personal cost, forever. Even though we didn't have the words for it as kids, we still instinctively understood that kind of bravery. Let me explain the title card here. I don't think it's as simple as it's a scary show for kids. I think the show understood something that actual horror as a genre understands, that fear is one of the fastest ways to access emotional truth. Think about what horror actually does when it's at its best. It takes something that you're already afraid of, be it loss, or the unknown, or losing control, and it gives it an avatar. It externalizes the internal. Courage did this constantly. Remember the Freaky Fred episode? Fred, by the way, is one of the most unsettling characters in all of cartoon history, and I hope that you click subscribe if you agree with me. He's someone who presents as normal, but is just persistently wrong in a way that nobody around him ever acknowledges. If you've ever been in a room with someone like that, then you know exactly how that episode feels. And then there's King Ramses. I have to talk about King Ramses. The CGI rendering of that character looks completely out of place in the cartoon world around him, and that's not a budget thing. That uncanny valley feeling that he gives off is the entire point. He's not supposed to fit in because he's not from that world. And the most horrific part of that episode isn't the plagues that he sends in, it's that flat, affectless voice over and over. You know the line that I'm talking about.
Return the slab or suffer my curse.
It's calm, it feels inevitable, and it's completely indifferent to whatever Eustace is doing in response to it. The show used the vocabulary of horror to talk about things that kids were already experiencing in muted, real-life forms. The adult who smiles wrong, the situation that feels off in a way that you can't really describe, the consequences that come no matter what you do. It gave all of those things a character that we could look at on screen, and in doing that, it also gave kids something really valuable: practice. Practice sitting inside discomfort without looking away, which I think is a learned skill, and that connects directly to the darkest thing that the show was actually doing, which was never the monsters at all. The episodes of Courage that really stayed with people aren't the scariest ones. They are oftentimes the saddest ones. The Mask is an episode about an abusive relationship, and it's played completely straight with real emotional weight in a children's cartoon. One character has been hurt by someone they loved, and they've built their entire identity around protecting others from the same thing.
Sorry.
That's it. That's the whole episode. The series finale, which is very appropriately named Perfect, by the way, shows Courage being told over and over by every person that he encounters that he's not good enough, that he needs to be better, that he's fundamentally lacking, and at the end, someone unexpected finds him and says this:
There's no such thing as perfect. You're beautiful as you are, Courage. With all your imperfections, you can do anything.
And somehow, that line hit harder than anything else in the show's entire run. Because that fish wasn't talking to Courage, it was talking to the kid on the couch watching. It was talking to me. It was talking to you. And that's the thing that I keep coming back to. The darkness in this show was never darkness for its own sake. It was always in service of the emotional truth underneath it. The monsters were all of these weird emotions that we couldn't describe or name. The villains were the specific, recognizable ways that people can fail each other. And Courage, as small and scared and as powerless as he was, he kept running towards all of it, every time. Never because he wasn't afraid, but because Muriel was on the other side of it, and she was always worth it.
Now this is a bed I can sleep in any day.
I think the reason this show hits so hard for so many people is because it told the truth about something that most forms of entertainment will never touch. That love is not the absence of fear. That showing up for people that you care about is terrifying and hard, and sometimes nobody around you even notices that you're doing it. And somehow, in the middle of all of that, a generation of kids watched that and felt seen. Courage the Cowardly Dog was so much more than a cartoon. It was a genuine mirror, and I think it's worth looking into again. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're nostalgic for this era of TV, then the video that you're about to watch next is perfect for you. Also, if you want to support the channel, you can join the Patreon, where you get special perks, including seeing your name listed as producer in future episodes.